Hello, my dear brothers and sisters. It is the feast of Our Lady of Fatima. We recall how the Blessed Virgin Mary in 1917 appeared to three simple, ordinary children. One was 7 years old, the other 9, the other 10, Jacinta, Francisco, and Lucia, and entrusted to them a message which is still very much relevant today and even urgent. Let us look into the message. First, the Blessed Mother appealed that we pray the Rosary each day for peace in the world. During that time, the First World War was going on. And so, to pray for the end of war and peace in the world. So, the Blessed Mother appealed that each day we pray the Rosary. Second, aside from praying the Rosary, we pray for the intercession or supplication for the conversion of sinners. According to the message of Blessed Virgin Mary, if people will continue to offend God, do not convert from their evil ways, a worse war would happen. And we know it happened with World War II. And number three is to offer sacrifices for the reparation for sins. Many people are ending up in hell. The children were given a glimpse of the torment of hell. And many people end up in hell. And according to the Blessed Mother, because there is no one praying for their souls, no one is interceding for them, no one is offering sacrifices for them. So the Blessed Mother asked the three children, and at the same time all of us, to offer sacrifices for the reparation for sins. Number four is to establish a devotion to the Immaculate Heart of Mary. And when we speak of a devotion, it is not just praying, but also to imitate the Blessed Virgin Mary in her purity of heart, in her holiness, in her full-hearted dedication and commitment to the work of the Lord. So that is the devotion to the Immaculate Heart of Mary. And number five, the Blessed Mother asked that a shrine be built where she appeared so that her message, her appearance that time may be remembered by all. And so, my dear brothers and sisters, the message of prayer, praying the Rosary, sacrificing for the reparation of sins, interceding for the conversion of souls, entrusting our lives to the Immaculate Heart of Mary so that we may be under her maternal protection and that we may imitate the Blessed Virgin Mary. All this is the message of Our Lady of Fatima. But I would like to share with you some other insights and reflections. First, Mary appeared to three simple, ordinary children. Why the children? If Mary wanted to stop the war during that time, why didn't she appear to world leaders during those years, during those time? Why not give the appeal to adults, but why choose three children? Remember what Jesus said in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 10. Lord of heaven and earth, for although you have hidden these things from the wise and the learned, you have revealed them to the childlike. What was hidden from the wise and the learned were revealed to the childlike. What do the three children possess? The childlike attitude, the humility, the purity of heart. Remember in the Beatitudes, we were told, blessed are the pure of heart, for they shall see God. And because these three children have purity of heart, they were able to listen to God, listen to the Blessed Virgin Mary and her message. It is only when we have this purity of heart that we could be open and listen to what God has to tell us. You see, nowadays, during this pandemic, probably we should also humble ourselves and try to discern and ask, what is God telling me in all this that is happening nowadays? Do we humble ourselves to see that this is not just a natural event, but this is also supernatural because God is speaking through the events that is happening in our world today. And what is God telling us? Are we humble enough to acknowledge that we are not in control of everything, but God is? Are we humble enough to admit that we need God and that we cannot, control everything, that we are not gods in this world? And also, are we humble enough? Are we, is our heart pure enough to listen to what God has to tell us? So that's the first reflection that I invite you to examine or to reflect on, appearing to the three children, speaking to them. Do we still listen to God? Second, with the uh, uh, vision of the reality of hell, it speaks of our Christianity, the way we live our lives will have its consequences. Many people nowadays have lost the sense of eternity. We look at things, actions that we do only in this world, that the consequences just here on this world that we live in. But we know through this vision that they had of hell and the invitation, or the reality that the Blessed Virgin Mary came from heaven, the children were asking about, hey, am I going to heaven? And this friend of mine who died, is she in heaven? And so there was this openness of the sense of eternity. I know nowadays some people say, hey, don't speak of hell. Hell is just like uh, an imagination of medieval Christians to scare off Christians, Catholics from sinning. So hell is not real, hell is not true. But here, with the message of the Blessed Virgin Mary, it speaks of the reality of hell and at the same time the reality of heaven. So, do we see that every action that we do, the way we live our Christian life, will have eternal consequences? Are we conscious about it, or have we totally forgotten it? Third, that we can reflect on is that, after the children saw and heard the message of the Blessed Virgin Mary, they have set their lives, their hearts, their minds into heaven. They followed. They set their hearts and mind to do sacrifices, to pray. Why? Because they wanted to go to heaven. And that became their mission. They were not just praying for themselves. They are praying for the conversion of sinners. They are making sacrifices each day. Simple sacrifices like missing a meal, sharing their meal with others, not drinking water, even under the heat of the sun. Um, Jacinta and Francisco died uh, a year later due to the Spanish flu, the pandemic during that time. They had to suffer and they offered this suffering. They suffered a lot and offered this suffering for the reparation for sins. So they had their minds and hearts their lives set in this mission of bringing more people and themselves to heaven. Probably that is one thing that we have to again examine and reflect. Is our heart and mind, are our lives set for eternity, set for heaven? Or have we been missing out? And finally, I just would like to also say the Blessed Virgin Mary came with this message not to frighten people, not to frighten us, but to awaken us and encourage us to belong to the winning team. What do I mean? Because Jesus had won victory over Satan. Jesus had won this victory, and according to the book of Ephesians, we are now he brings us to sit with him on the right hand in heaven, in that heavenly temple, in the right hand of God. And so the victory has been won. And so we just have to participate in this victory of Christ. So the Blessed Virgin Mary came to remind us, to invite us, and to encourage us to belong to the winning team of God and not to allow ourselves to fall to the losing team into hell. So it is an awakening, a moment of encouragement. So I hope this message does not come across to us as something that simply frightens us because of the image of hell. Remember, in the act of contrition, um, uh, there is what we call imperfect contrition when we dread the loss of heavens and the pains of hell. But it helps us to move into the perfect contrition, but most of all because I offended you, my God, who was all good and deserving of all my love. And so, my dear brothers and sisters, these children who had this vision of hell, yes, they were frightened. However, it did not destroy them. The vision of hell led them to aspire for heaven more and to love God more. And may that be true to all of us also. So let us try to benefit from this feast of Our Lady of Fatima by seeing that we too need to pray, that we too can help others through our intercessions and prayers for the conversion of sinners, and offer sacrifices, small sacrifices each day for the reparation for sins. That is our mission, the mission for the church.